sharp. Parents are pretty sharp. You know, they get legal counsel are pretty sharp. They'll sit back and say, well, show me where this says that in your bylaws. And oftentimes, you know, if we're somewhat vague, it works against us. So we've had to really work hard at trying to cover every single component, every single aspect. All right. Initially, so let's just go through this as we can at this point. The website, the first slide that you'd have, the website, primarily as a new AD, you need to be extremely well versed in section 6 and 7. I don't know the password. You need to be extremely well versed in section 6 and 7 of the website. Now, obviously, for those of you that are truly new to this, basically what you do is you'll go to the NMA website, go to the toolbar up at top. One of the options is Handbook and Forms. What you'll do is you'll click on NMA Handbook, and then it's going to give you the menu of all the different sections. Go to section 6. Section 6 is all eligibility rules and regulations. Section 7 is sports-specific rules and regulations. Okay, so basically you need to know those inside and out because it's going to come up over and over again. Okay, initially, let's get started. Transferring to follow a coach. It's bigger in the metro areas. It's basically bigger in the metro areas with club participation and primarily also in I guess also areas of the state where coaches are moving from one program to another. You know, you need a rule of thumb. You need to understand this, that if any coach within your system, be it grades 7 through 12, who moves to another environment, if that kid in that system follows that coach, if the kid follows that coach, even if the family moves, then that kid is going to be considered a transfer student for an entire year. Okay? And will be ineligible to participate not only in the sport that coach coaches, but in all sports for a year. Okay? Give you a prime example that I think is really easy to look at this point is I know Los Alamos hired a coach that was at Espanola Valley. He was a sub-varsity girls coach. He also coached some club basketball. And so primarily any kid who played for that coach, any kid entering the 7th grade on up who played for that coach within the last several years is now going to be ineligible if they move to Los Alamos to follow that coach. So bottom line is, it doesn't just deal with the varsity coach, it deals with the coach at any level. Okay, is that something, do you understand that? Okay, so bottom line is, a lot of times I get phone calls, well, you know, we got an AAU program, is it okay if my junior high coach coaches our varsity? That's fine. But if that junior high coach goes ahead and moves on to another institution and that kid follows them, then it becomes problematic. Okay? Summer workouts, summer tournaments. A quick point. You need to, if anything that is in excess of 4 days is considered a program. Anything that is less than 4 days is considered a camp. Okay? That's where we come from on this. So bottom line is, because that's what will happen. A lot of times you'll get kids who go to a camp at a particular school. Let's say you got some kids from the metro area that go to Toby Manzanares' volleyball camp at Rio Rancho. Okay? Anything in excess of 4 days would be considered a program and not a camp. So you got to understand that. So if Toby's got a program that goes on for 2 or 3 weeks, and kids are involved in that, a summer program that goes on for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they decide to transfer over to Rio Rancho to play in Toby's program, then they are transfer kids and they would be subject to an ineligibility. Yes?
When you say ineligibility, is that at all levels or just the varsity?
That, you know what, that is at all levels. transferring to follow a coach is at all levels and in all sports. In all sports. Okay? So if we deem that a kid transferred to follow a coach, and that kid's a volleyball player, that kid is also ineligible at all levels for not only volleyball, but every other sport as well. Okay? Every other sport as well. Do you know the password to this?
I'm getting the one we just used for Spirit.
Okay. All right. See, they threw a curve at me, but that's all right. We're all right. We got it covered. We got it covered. Sally always likes to put us on the spot like that to make sure that we can function under pressure. It's all about functioning under pressure. All right? Okay. Any questions on that? Now remember this. So here's the situation. Here's the situation that you really need to look at. Your coaches can work all they want to. APS is entering the 8th grade. If you allow kids to participate at the high school level as 8th graders, then it's the summer entering the 7th grade. Okay? Those kids are off limits in that particular situation as far as transferring to follow a coach would be concerned. Okay? All right? Let's look at undue influence. And Sally, you can hop in whenever you'd like to. Let's look at undue influence. Okay? Bottom line is, here's what happens. Here's what happens. Parents really are, as Kenny alluded to this morning, parents are a lot of the problem. Parents are a lot of the problem. And coaches are, well, maybe we're somewhat egotistical, but we like to be flattered. So when a parent comes to a coach and says, you know what, you got a great program, my kid's a solid kid, and I really would love to have my kid play in your program. Really would love to have my kid play in your program, okay? But, that kid goes to another school. Basically, your stock answer in that needs to be, your coaches, you need to talk to your coaches about this. Yeah, I know it's flattering when that comes up, but basically what a coach needs to tell a parent is this. Listen, I can't speak to you about your kid participating in my program at this time. You can go and give them the name of your administrator, the name of your athletic director, whatever that may be. Have your kid speak to them. Have your kid enroll in our school, and I would love to have them in our program. And that's got to be the answer and the only answer. That's got to be the only answer. You cannot communicate with kids about your program. You cannot bring them around and show them your facilities, all those different types of things. And the bottom line for us is this, guys. Hey, coach your kids. Coach your kids. You have no business really reaching out and grabbing other people's kids. Bottom line is, if they're in your district, if they live in your district, those are your kids. Coach your kids. I don't know. Personally, I really have a hard time with that when we're reaching out and grabbing kids. But, and it's happening all the time. We see it all the time. This morning in the Life of an Athlete workshop, we talked about loyalty. And, it's just kind of like out the window nowadays. And I don't know if it's the AAU and the club affiliations, those types of things, where kids are playing with kids from all over the place and other programs. But the bottom line is, there's no loyalty to a coach. There's no loyalty to a program. There's no loyalty to a group of kids. They're just looking for the best situation for them. And so as coaches, don't be a part of that. Don't be a part of that. You owe it to the kids in your program not to be a part of that type of thing. Bottom line is, a parent wants to come and talk to you, you need to sit back and just say, look, if I speak to you about this, it could jeopardize your kid's eligibility. You need to go see our administrator. You need to go see our administrator, and we'll go through that process. All right? We've got to make sure that happens. And guys, like I said, it's happening way too often where we're just, kids are moving left and right. Kids are moving left and right. So communication is the key. Usually it's not often that we find situations where people are providing money or clothing or whatever it may be. Those things aren't happening. The biggest situation is communication with coaches. And we can stop that. We can stop that. You need to be very, very firm on that with your coach. You just sit back and say, listen, a kid is not in your district. You have no right talking to that kid. If that kid is not in your attendance zone, school does not live in your attendance zone, you have no right talking to that kid. I don't care what the situation is, you do not communicate with that kid. Can you say, good game, nice game, you did a great job? Yeah, that's, we're not going crazy on this whole thing, but when they start talking about coming to your place, hey, that's got to be off limits. All right? Let's have an even playing field for everybody. Let's make sure we respect everyone else's, we talk about competing with class. Let's make sure we respect everybody else's kids, and we work with our own. We work with our own. Okay? Out of season coaching. Out of season coaching. You've got 7.5 hours per week to work with kids during the off season. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And why do we go to that number? Why do we pick 7.5? Because basically, it's an equity situation. People that are on a 4x4 block, are meeting with those kids for 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So in order to be equitable across the board, we gave everyone that same option, so which totals to 7.5 hours, okay, in the off season. Now understand, I get a lot of calls. We do not govern summer activity whatsoever. The NMA does not govern summer activity. So bottom line is, if your coaches are going to be working with kids for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day in the summertime, so be it. If you're going to allow that, that's your call. We have nothing to do with that. Secondly, your coaches can actually coach your kids. Your coaches can coach your kids in as many ball games. We hear rumors that there's some basketball programs here in the city that play 100 ball games a summer. And that's probably close to true. That's probably close to true. We don't govern that. We don't govern that. Okay? So in the off season though, you can work with your kids. You can work with your kids 7.5 hours per week. All right? Now, please, let's make sure that we got to have some respect. We got to have some respect for those in-season programs. Okay? Please don't go and sit back. Well, in the off season, I got 7.5 hours. So this kid's playing football, but I'm the baseball coach. So after football practice, hey, I need that kid with me. That's a total lack of respect for those other programs within your school. The way I see it, and it's not a bylaw, it's not a bylaw, but the bottom line is this: in-season kids should be off limits to everyone else. In-season kids should be off limits. If a kid's playing football, that basketball coach, that wrestling coach, that baseball coach need to support that kid in football and leave that kid alone. And leave that kid alone. All right? I think it's all a matter of respect. It's all about competing with class. It's all about being part of a program. I bet every one of you guys as former coaches or as coaches, every day you talk to your kids about one for all and all for one. These are your teammates. Everything we do with our teammates, for our teammates, the whole 9 yards. Well, the bottom line is all the coaches within your staff are your teammates. All the coaches within your staff are your teammates. You need to treat them with the same amount of respect. Okay? We need to make sure we go there. Make sure we go there. Now, out-of-season coaching, a few tidbits on that. First off, you can practice your kids for 7.5 hours per week during the off-season. You cannot coach them in any competition whatsoever. Okay? They cannot wear your gear. They cannot wear school gear. You cannot provide school transportation to competitions. One of the big things right after the state basketball tournament, it seems like every weekend there's an AAU tournament here in the city and throughout the state. Okay? All right? You can practice with your kids. But you cannot provide transportation. Your booster club cannot provide funding. They cannot wear the Albuquerque High School uniforms, those types of things. All right? All right? So bottom line is off season, all you can do is practice. All you can do is work with those kids. Another key point is, all right, if you sit back and say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour and a half today, every day with my freshmen through seniors, and I'm going to spend an hour and a half with my 7th and 8th graders. It doesn't work that way. It's all cumulative. It's all cumulative. So you've got 7.5 hours per week with your entire program. Another thing, My varsity coach is spending 7.5 hours per week with 9th grade through 12th grade. My 7th grade coach is spending 7.5 hours per week with 7th and 8th graders. It does not work that way. It's cumulative for the entire program. Cumulative for the entire program.
Can you take a breath?
Huh? What's
Can you
up?
take a breath? Did you guys delete it off when you put it on the hard drive, Jackie's hard drive? 'Cause it's
She
not-
said it was on the desktop.
I know,
We
but
got,
it's
I
like
mean, you
deleted
know what,
off.
we got to cover, we'll just go through it.
Okay.
I don't know where
Do
it
you
is. She
have
said it
your
was on the
phone?
desktop.
Jackie has texted you her password.
Excuse me for 1 second, please.
Sorry, 'cause I think it was.
Okay, summer workouts. Okay, as I stated, we don't govern summer activity, but please understand that summer workouts cannot be a requirement for participation during the regular season. Okay? Hey, listen, your coaches cannot tell kids, listen, if you're not here this summer, your playing time is going to be diminished this winter. Guys, there's ways around this. There's ways around this. Tell your coaches not to be stupid. And you know what? It happens over and over and over again. Here's the situation, guys. You know, we're going to be practicing. We're going to be doing these things this summer. You need to be part of the summer program if you plan on playing next fall. No, we can't go there. But where you can go is, listen, we're going to be implementing. We're going to be going through drills and skills through this summer. We're going to be implementing parts of our offense that we're going to be using next fall or next winter. We're going to be implementing our presses or our defenses or whatever it may be. You know what? It would really be in your best interest to be here this summer because I think it'll help you to advance and really help us this winter time. Okay? Simple as that. Have I told a kid and I have to be here? No, we haven't. No, we haven't. We're just saying it would be in your best interest to be here. It would be in your best interest to be here because it's going to really help your skill develop. And that's as far as you can go. That's as far as you can go. Where am I at? Okay. Defined for sports season, obviously, you know, the first official day of practice is the first day of the sports season. And that goes through whatever the end of your competitive season is. Whether it be if you don't get out of district, that's your season. If you make it to state, get all the way on through the state finals, that's your season. But that's what would be a defined sports season. Okay? You know, and I'm going to tell you something. And Sally can attest to this. We hear all the time, well, we had tryouts a week before the first day of the season. You know, season's already started. Well, what do you mean the kid got cut? Monday's the first day of the season. What do you mean the kid already got? Well, no, we had tryouts last week. It happens. It happens, and it's happening more often than not. You know what? You have got to give that kid, at least every Joe Blow in your school must get at least 2, we recommend 3 days of tryout. 3 days of tryout before you cut that kid. I don't care if you know for a fact there's no way in heck on God's green earth that this kid's going to make that team. You still have to give that kid that tryout period. Okay? Let's make sure we understand that. Make sure your coaches understand that. Yes.
What's the official start dates for cheer and dance?
Do you know the date?
It's a year-round sport. They can have competition beginning November 3rd, but it's a year-round practice,
Okay, so it's kind of golf, I guess you can say,
kind of
right?
like golf and tennis, exactly like golf and tennis.
So just once they kind of deem when they're going to get started, that's,
Yes, November 3rd is when they can start competing. That's the beginning of the season. But they still have to have 10 practice days. But that can, and 10 is like football. Everybody else is 5, but for Spirit it's 10. And the guidelines in there, they have to have at least 5 days on the mat as far as stunting and things like that.
Okay, again, like we stated, preseason workouts, you know, if you got your kids going and you're 2 to 3 weeks in before the official practice starts and you got things going on, you cannot require a kid to be there. Every kid must get that tryout period, okay? And you cannot tell that kid you need to be here or you cannot participate. Make sure your coaches don't do that. Make sure they know that. Because I'll tell you what, parents are pretty sharp. You know, with technology being what it is today, they know what the situation is, and we've had several situations where it's been problematic for a coach. Just be smart about that. Sally talked this afternoon with all of you about the pre-participation PE, not counting as one of your 5 or whether it be football 10 days mandatory preseason practices before you compete. Okay.
Now, they can be an athletic class, but not a PE class to count. Scholastic eligibility, anything on scholastic eligibility hasn't changed. The one thing that we see, especially those seniors, make sure they're in over 50% of the day, like 51%. So if you're a 6-7 day period, they have to at least be in 4 classes. If you are a 4x4 block, they must at least be in 3 classes. Now, with those kids that have a shortened schedule, they have to pass at least over 51%. So if they're taking 4 classes only out of 6, they cannot have an F. That 2.0 and no more than 1 F doesn't go for them because they have to at least pass over 51% of their classes. And I think that's the main mistake we make when it comes to scholastic eligibility. Also, homeschool, charter school, you need to work with the charter school for grades. They should be getting grades, and homeschool with the parents. They should be giving you grades the exact same time that you are checking grades. And I know they come from home, and I know nobody ever has an F or C, even in homeschool, or a B, but you still have to check those at the same time. Also with some of you, especially that have those kids that are taking online courses that are coming back to your transcript, or they're going to a college, you at least, when you check them, whether it's 6 weeks or 9 weeks, you need to get a grade from those classes. Don't just take the 5 classes that are on the transcripts knowing that they're taking a college course that's coming at the end. That course does count too at the 6 and 9 weeks. And I think that we see that quite a bit, especially in larger metro areas where there are colleges that these kids are going to, and we're not getting those grades when it comes at the 6 and 9 week period. So make sure you do.
Summer school, bottom line is a kid can make up 1 course in summer school that can be used for athletic eligibility. And it's got to be the same exact course that they wish to go ahead and have replaced, okay? So bottom line is, if a kid failed an Algebra 1 course and wants to go ahead and make up that course that they can go ahead and become eligible for the fall, if that kid takes a Calculus 4 course that summer, it's still not going to suffice. It's got to be Algebra 1 only. It can't be a general math. It can't be a vocational math. It can't be something close. It must be the same exact course, okay? And they can only make up 1 course that they would utilize for academic eligibility.
And question real quick. If it's a class they failed and it's an AP or pre-AP class and they want to make it up because it's an eligibility issue and the school does not offer in the summertime that AP or pre-AP course, but they take the next normal class they would take would just be, let's say they took AP English, and in the summertime they just took regular English, which meets the standards and benchmarks for that school districts, you know, gaining that credit. Is that accepted? Will that be counted as a replacement class?
Now, what my question would be, in your registrar, would they take away that AP class and put in English, or would that AP class still remain an F? So that would go back to you. You need to see is if your registrar is going to take away this class and replace it, because they're looking at it the exact same class.
Off the transcript.
We would probably ask you to see the curriculum for both courses.
Right.
And that would be
I know
up to
we've
your
done that-
register,
we've done
yeah,
that in
but
the
you'd have
past.
to
Right.
see.
But I
Now,
understand
there's
what
some
you're saying,
schools that may
though.
keep the APF and then English put the A, and that F is still sitting on their transcript, and no, they're not saying it's the
Right.
exact same course. If it's
Right.
going away,
It would
then
have to go off of their, be pulled off of
it'd be
their,
replacing.
from their transcript.
Yeah, because they don't offer AP courses during the summer.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and I have parents ask that, and that's coming more prevalent, so I was just, you know, we kind of ran
So
into
you'd
that
have to go
once.
back to your school
Yeah, but-
district to see if they're looking at it as exact same.
But that's good advice, that helps.
Now, the petition process, I kind of went through that at the AD's meeting this afternoon. All I can say, guys, is please don't send anything to me unless it's complete. And you know, there's, the Form A needs to be thoroughly spelled out. The transcript needs to include most recent grades and all grades earned through high school. Okay, the Form C needs to be completely filled out by both groups, the sending and the receiving school. And I need to have a residential document, okay? If it's an ownership of a home, I need to have that, a copy of that. If it's a rental, I need to have a copy of that. That's 12 months minimum, and then we need to go from there, okay? Don't start sending things and, well, I got this, and, you know, sometimes I'll get a Form A, I haven't received. And another thing, if you're having a difficult time receiving the Form C, if someone is not cooperating, whether it be within our state or whether it be out of state, basically what I'll do is, you know, I'll advise you as to how we can get that done. Either I will call that AD and ask specific questions on the kid, basically, was that kid, did that kid have any deportment issues at your school? Did that kid have any fines? Is there any reasons why this kid should not be eligible once he transfers to New Mexico, so on and so forth? We'll document that and we'll go from there. So, you know, don't just sit on it. Let's do what you can to get that Form C from the sending school, and if not, get with me or you make contact with them. We'll go from there on that. Okay?
And on the
Yes.
reverse side, I'm sorry, on the reverse side, if you're a school that gets a Form C, get it back. You know, that's a problem. Usually, you know, when we get the Form C, they're not coming back, it's usually within New Mexico. It's really not out of state. So you need to go on the flip side and get those back as soon as possible, because you know the athletic directors are waiting for those.
Just going back to what Sally said earlier about Scholastic, just so I'm clear on it, clear my mind on it, a student receives the 2 Fs, but on the 9 weeks, it's only 1 F. At what point can the accumulative be used or can it
Okay,
be used?
let me go through the whole thing for you, okay? All right? Basically, you're gonna start, unless your school district has a different policy. Some school districts say we check only 9-week grades. Some school districts will, you know, so basically, the basic premise is this, though. You look at the 9-week grade. Now, obviously, first 9 weeks and third 9 weeks stand alone. Bottom line is what your first 9-week grade is, that's what it is. What your third 9 weeks grades are, that's what they are. They stand alone, okay? But at a 9-week, at the end of a semester, end of a grading period, bottom line is you look at the 9-week grade. Is the kid eligible? Is the kid eligible? He maybe does not meet the 2.0, maybe he's got 2 Fs, whatever that may be. You can still now look at the semester grade. Okay, you can still, even if the kid's got 2 Fs for the 9 weeks, you can still look at the semester grade. All right, now you look at the semester grade. If the kid does not make it at semester, but does not have more than 1 F, now you can look at cumulative. Okay, if at the semester, if the kid does not make the 9 weeks, and then we go to the semester, and the kid has 2 Fs or more at the semester, it's over. Okay? You cannot go cumulative. All right, so that's your process on that.
There's also in there, years ago, about 8 years ago, when some of the scholastic eligibility, some of the bylaws changed, you can cum a kid more than 1 time. Long time ago, there used to be a rule, you can only use cumulative provision on a kid 1 time. Well, the bylaws committee took that out. You can cum a kid twice. What they thought would happen is if you had to cum a kid more than twice, they're not going to make cumulative provision anyway. So that's why they took that out. So there is not a bylaw that says you can only do it 1 time.
Okay, residential requirements. Go ahead and go on that.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of you know these residential requirements. There's so many. If you have any questions on them, the one thing that we really need, and you really need to pay attention to, are those 8th graders that are coming to you, and they are new to your school, and they've already played high school sports, they've already made their open enrollment choice. For those of you who do not allow 8th grade participation, don't assume every 9th grader that's coming to your school hasn't played somewhere else. Because a lot of times what we're seeing, they may be going to a smaller school, a private school, to play 8th grade, and then they transfer to the larger school for their 9th grade year. Well, they've already used their open enrollment choice at 8th grade. There should be a participation form being used. I just had one, a transfer, actually from Hope to St. Pius, and I was able to go in our files, and I have the signature of the parent. They understood that if they played 8th grade at Hope, that if they transferred, they weren't going to be able to participate at the new school. So they were all, everything, but I showed them, you signed this, and then they've gone away and they haven't asked since. So those 8th grade participation forms are very vital
So
when
they
it comes to
can't,
that.
they can't participate at any level when they transfer to a new school?
They can do JV, sub-varsity.
Right, okay, gotcha.
But a lot of times those 8th graders that are playing high school at 8th grader, they're thinking they can play varsity, right away. But just make sure you have those participation forms in. And at least in our office, I'm telling you what, we probably had about 600 of those participation forms, and we received letters back. But actually, the past few years, it is a pain, but it has helped us in litigation and parents wanting to transfer after their 8th grade year. A question?
Yeah, when they transfer to a different school and they play in a particular sport, and when they get to the new school, can they participate in a different sport?
Now this is it, okay? 8th and 9th graders cannot use did not participate. So if an 8th or 9th grader, no matter what sports they played at the high school level, let's say they played middle school basketball, but they were moved up to high school baseball. When they transfer, it doesn't matter what sports they played, they are still considered a transfer student. The only time you can use did not participate is if they are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And so just remember, those 8th and 9th graders try to use that rule, and you can't use that for 8th and 9th graders.
And also for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, you have to have been academically eligible to participate last year to go ahead and utilize that regulation. And we get that all the time. We get situations where they check did not participate, and then we go ahead and look at the transcript. We say, well, hell, the kid couldn't have participated. He failed everything. He was not eligible in the fall. He was not eligible in the spring. So as a result, he couldn't have participated even if he wanted to. So they must have been academically eligible to participate to go ahead and utilize that regulation. Okay?
Go ahead.
Do you need a residence form if you're moving from your father's house or mother's house?
Yeah, yes, we do. There is a regulation called parent to parent that just came in a couple years ago, and you can use it one time. So if somebody was at mom's and now they're going to be at dad's, you can use a parent to parent. Now, dad, let's say they played at mom at Mayfield and they lived in the Mayfield district, and now they're going to dad and they're going to Hobbs. If dad lives in Lovington, no, they would not be eligible at Hobbs. They would be eligible with dad at their local public school only. Now, you can't just go wherever you want with dad. You have to go to that local public school. But you can do that one time. Now, if they decide to go from dad back to mom, they would be ineligible.
Okay? Questions? Any other questions on that? Participation limits. Okay? At the junior high school, and this is something that I think a lot of us don't know, and a lot of you do, are athletic directors for junior high as well. There is no maximum participation limitation. Okay? Bottom line is this. You've got game limitations, whatever they may be. I think it's 18 for basketball or whatever they may be. Okay? A kid can only play that number of games for their school, but if they play on a club program or whatever else it may be, those games don't count against them. So you've got a lot of, that door's open for junior high kids to go ahead and participate at both at the club and at the school level. Okay?
Junior high kids that are playing junior high ball.
Junior high ball.
Not junior high, not 8th graders playing up, but those are for junior high ball. They have that open, that parents can make a decision to put them everywhere they want, if they want to play club too. Okay?
So at the high school level, grades 9 through 12. Yes, sir.
Is it, near Gallup, we have a lot of tournaments during the, 12 and under, maybe 14 and under. Not really specifically club, but, some of our students in the middle schools, play in these tournaments on weekends. And middle school coaches would prefer them not to, but, parents know the rule and say, well, they can per NNA.
Well, I think you can hold the line on that, and we will support you. We will support you if your decision as a school is to sit back and to say, if you're playing on a school team, you cannot play on a club team simultaneously. If that's in writing, and that's been adopted by your administration, whether it be your board, your school administration, if it's in writing, we can support that. We can support that. And I fully believe that if a coach if in a program you feel strongly about that. Now, what I would say is don't have your basketball coaches say yes, your football coaches say no, your track coaches say yes, your cross-country coaches say no. I think it needs to be uniform across the board. But if that's the direction that you wish to go, we would support that.
The reason that the middle school is open like that by the bylaws committee is because statewide, there's a lot of middle schools that may not reach the 18 maximum. They might have a 10-game schedule or 11, something a lot smaller than a maximum. So they felt that at the middle school level, if it's that choice, if they don't have a full schedule, they could go and do what they need to do. So that's why it's different for middle school than high school.
Now, you do understand game limitations at the high school. Bottom line is, whatever that school limitation is, that's basically where you end. You got a soccer kid, the limit, 22 maybe? I'm not sure what that limit is. And if a kid's playing club and school soccer at the same time, and that's allowed in your district or your school, once they reach that 22-game limit, whatever that may be, they're done. They're done. Okay. So a kid's playing 6 club games. Well, he's got 16 games with that soccer program at your school. Okay. So you need to make sure you're on top of that. And I'm going to tell you something. Don't let it come back to haunt you. Don't let it come back to haunt you, because there's we don't research things. We really don't go out and try to find people cheating. We're contacted continuously. Every week, Sally or I get information from people that this has occurred. You know when it's going to happen? It's going to happen right before the district tournament. Or it's going to happen right before postseason. Somebody's going to call us up and they're going to say, Ernie Viramontes was, he played in church league all winter long. He played 6 games. I have a copy of this. I got photos of Ernie doing it. I got this, and that. Bottom line is, okay, Ernie, you've already played 26 high school ball games and you played 6 church league games. Guess what, Ernie? You're done for the rest of the year. And that's when we find out about it. Always at the end. People are extremely intelligent about the regulations. So you need to be on top of those things. Because bottom line is, it's going to cost your program. It's going to, it's not just only going to cost the kid, it's going to cost you a program.
Now on this, the 25% is one thing there's usually 2 sports that this happens with. You have to play in 25% of the regular season games if you are a dual sport athlete. Where we come up with the problem is a soccer player who just finished their season and the coach wants them to be a field goal kicker. Soccer goes so late that there's no way that there's going to be 25% of the football games for them to be in postseason. So if that's going to happen, that soccer player needs to kick in a football game at least 25% of the football games. Okay, so you're talking, you're going to be more than 2. It's going to have to be, they're going to have to play kick in at least 3 games before postseason. The other place where we see it is usually baseball and track and field. Same thing. They want them to throw the javelin or something, those baseball players. And so you need to make sure if you've got 2 sport athletes that for postseason. Now that's not one sport. I mean, a 1 sport athlete can go in and play right away. It's a 2 sport athlete that this occurs. I always get the question, well, why not the 1 sport athlete trying to play in 25% of the games? The bylaws committee had talked about it, and especially in the sport of football. If you have an academically ineligible kid that's been practicing through October, and they all of a sudden become eligible, they're probably not gonna get in 25% of the games to be able to play postseason. And so that is why the committee didn't go that route, to penalize that kid that's working hard to try to get their grades up to start playing at the end of October. And that was one of the reasons that's why they didn't go there.
Now, here's an interesting scenario, is that a kid who has not participated all season long as that kid has 10 football practices or 5 practices in every other sport, they can participate in postseason competition without having participated in any regular season ball games or competition. Let's go, this is the sport of cross country. You got a kid who didn't run all year long, has not run cross country at all. Okay, come week of district. On Monday, that kid, for whatever, you were able to talk that kid out, that kid goes to practice for 5 days. On Saturday, that kid is eligible to run the district meet without ever having participated in a regular season cross-country meet.
And that, you know, is that fair? Yeah, it's probably not, because you're displacing kids that have been there all season. So that's a coach's decision, but that might be something we need to look at, but the reason is because of that October, that 9 weeks thing for those fall kids, so, yes.
Before we leave the page, can you guys go over one more time the eligibility and retention? That's something I really didn't grasp.
Okay, eligibility retention. Bottom line is this, when parents move, a kid, if a kid has gained eligibility at a particular school, okay, the parents, the family goes ahead and moves to another attendance zone. Now that kid has a choice. At that time, that kid can stay at that school and move with his parents, physically move with his parents, but he still retains eligibility at that school if he or she chooses to do so. Okay? Now, so that kid really is twofold, is eligible at that time if the parents move and that kid chooses to move with the parents, then the kid is eligible at the new school as well. So they really have 2 options as far as immediate eligibility is concerned. Now here's the kicker. If parents go ahead and move, and you sit back and say, now you've got your choice. What am I going to do? Am I going to stay here and retain my eligibility, or not? Or am I moving with my parents and gain immediate eligibility at the new attendance zone school? You've got to make that choice. If you choose to stay at your school, where you're at, because you want to finish a season, those types of things, and then maybe at the beginning of the school year, you want to finish a school year, and at the beginning of the next school year, you want to move and go with your parents to the new school, you are now a transfer student. So in other words, you got to make that choice now. When mom and dad move, you got to make that choice right now as to what you're going to do. Okay?
On that, do they have to do a Form C and do all that?
The new school would have to petition it, yes.
At that, maybe?
Yes, the new school.
But if he stays at his old school, same school, then no, you don't have to do anything. Okay. Now, state statute. This is not an NMA bylaw. So this is state law. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't overturn it. We can't override it. We can't do anything about it. Homeschool students are eligible at their local public attendance zone school. Okay? That's been going on for the past about 5 years now. It hasn't been too big of an issue. The only thing we kind of chuckle a little bit on is the academic portion of it, and you know what the grades that you're getting. But there's nothing you can do about it. Now, a new part of that law came in 2 years ago. Homeschool students are eligible in co-curricular activities. What are co-curricular activities? Those are those activities that have a class that go with the activity. Your band has a class. Homeschool students are eligible for band, even if it's co-curricular. Now, that passed a couple years ago. You cannot deny them from band. Usually DECA has a class.
ROTC.
Choir, ROTC, all those they're able to participate in. Now, charter school. There's a difference between the two, and I'm giving you the 2 distinctions. Charter school has an open enrollment choice, just like our 8th and 9th graders do. Charter school has an open enrollment choice, particularly at the 9th grade level. They can choose whatever public school they want to go to. We don't announce it, but it is part of state law. They can choose it. Once they choose it, that's where they're going to be playing. If they transfer or try to go to another school, they can't. Okay, they choose that school. However, since charter school students have courses at the school they're going to, you do not have to allow them to do co-curricular activities. They already have classes. And that's why the state law didn't go over to charter to allow them to do band and all of those. They're in a school already. So that's the difference between the two. It's distinctive differences. Now, the alternative schools that we're seeing popping up, especially in our bigger metropolitan areas with the bigger school districts, alternative schools, that's an NMAA bylaw. And the NMAA bylaw states they must participate in their home attendance zone school only. That makes sense. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's how it is.
And
Okay?
isn't there a form that you want them to, as a homeschool student, be able to produce to show that they're
Yeah.
assigned or a member of a
Yeah,
certain
what the rule is, and you guys keep that,
Okay.
is they have to be registered under the public education department as a homeschool student. So there's a piece of paper that has a number on it, and it has the seal of New Mexico and their name, that this is their homeschool student number. So they have to be approved for that.
That's also with that, online class, right, talked about
Your virtual school. Your virtual school, you have to find out, is a charter alternative. Most of them now are alternative. Some of them are charter. You need to find out what they are. But and you need to find out, because if it's a charter school and they're ninth graders, they may choose to go to Cliff or Deming or Cobra. You know, you don't know where they're gonna choose. But if it's an alternative online school, they have to play with you if they live in your district.
Now, let's specify, when Sally talks about them being a ninth grader, it's entering the ninth grade year. If a kid decides to come in as in October sometime, they no longer have open enrollment choice. It's at the beginning of that freshman year, when they make that choice as to where they're going to start high school. Okay, so make sure you understand
In
that.
this case, it was, she went to a charter school, then all of a sudden pulled her out of the charter school and decided to go homeschool.
And our bylaws, when they try to go from a charter to a home or a public school to a home, the bylaws stand as far as transfer students.
Yeah, Doug?
What if a charter school kid, this happens a lot, what if they come out for track or tennis, we don't see them until,
You're fine with the ninth graders as long as they didn't play anywhere else. They may make that decision in spring. But yes, that's, I know Rudy said October, but if they've identified that, but some of you're not gonna see till the end. Now, there's some of these kids in this, especially in these metro areas that are in charter schools. There is a statewide charter school league. They have their own sports program. They can't play in the charter school league and play with you guys at the same time. They're gonna have to make a decision. Are they playing with you or are they playing charter school league? Because, I mean, you guys, it's growing and growing. There's so many charter schools out there now, it's very difficult. We have a situation where one kid's trying to play one sport at one school and another sport at another school, and they're homeschooled. And so, because one school doesn't have this sport, but the one school has this sport, so this homeschooler wants to use two different schools. And they want the best of both worlds of what they're trying to do, but we need to keep them in the bylaws. So we're working with the PED on that situation. Yes?
One more, let's say if a charter school student wishes to go to another school to participate in a sport and all of a sudden wishes to go to our school for a different sport, what's the ruling on that?
No, once they
They're
pick that
transfer
school, they cannot do that. They cannot do that. Now, we'll go a little bit, I know there's a steak fry out there and stuff, and I don't even know what time it is, but let me skip through here to the participation ejection. The school personnel, that has remained the same. The third ejection now. Before, our ejection policy was second ejection and subsequent ejections were the same thing. Our board just passed. Second ejection, you're 2 games and you have a meeting with myself, okay? On a player ejection, if they get ejected a third time, they are out for 180 school days from that day of ejection. So if they get ejected for the third time in baseball, they are not playing football or basketball that next year. They are staying all the way out for 180 school days on a third ejection. I have a kid right now that has to come see me because they had 3 ejections this last year. took them out of sports, and that was between the local school district and myself, I told him, you better come see me before I'm gonna let him play again, you know, because this rule wasn't in place. But if that kid wouldn't have been able to play this year as a senior. So the board is getting really, I mean, this is real good. You know, at first we were saying for the remainder of the year, the board wanted to go stronger. Nobody should have 3 ejections, and you need to take care of that as athletic directors right away. Yes?
And that applies to, say, he's a sophomore and he got an ejection in soccer, an ejection in basketball, and an ejection in baseball. He's done for the next year.
Done for his junior year.
From the last ejection, from the
Correct.
third.
Correct.
So they carry over.
They carry over, yes.
You know, multiple ejections from the same school, bottom line is we're putting it on you guys. We're putting it on you. There's financial penalties, you're gonna have to come in and meet with Sally and sit down and, you know, you gotta control what's going on at your school. We find that it's just happening over and over, and it's a major problem. You know, it actually comes down to you as a member school. You're the head of that athletic program. You're in control of that athletic department, and you need to make sure that the right things happen at your school.
This is not a new bylaw. This actually, same school, number of ejections is not new. Well, this is our point of emphasis this year. Because what we're seeing is we'll have a kid get 2 ejections from another school, and then another kid from the same school get 1 and 2, and then we keep doing. That's a problem that's going on at the school, the leadership. It's not just the kids, the leadership and the coaches and the athletic director. So we're looking at this year, point of emphasis.
Ben, you have a question?
Yeah, what do you mean on the fans? They've been ejected, what, 3 times?
Fans.
Huh?
Fans, is that what you
Yeah.
asked?
Yeah.
Well, basically, you know, it's your call. It's your call, and in our bylaws, we put something in several years ago, which indicates that if you wish to ban a fan from a sports competition, we will back that as long as you've got appropriate documentation.
We have to put that back on you because we're not at your facility every single day to make sure that parent is not in the facility. So we will work with that school district and we will support whatever is best for your school. And we will back you in anything that we decide. We'll lead you and guide you, you know, if we hear about it or whatever, but it's ultimately your decision and we'll support you.
We had a situation in northern New Mexico where both superintendents were at a contest and some fans got out of hand. They gave us names of fans. They said, these individuals cannot attend these ball games anymore, and we went ahead and held strong on that. It was quite a fiasco, quite an issue. They had a really difficult time. We had board members calling us, but we stood firm with that school. And basically what we did indicate to them is we're not going to let you put it on us. Say if the NMA says you guys can't come to ball games anymore, what our statement is, in a joint decision between the Santa Fe Public Schools and the New Mexico Activities Association, you are no longer allowed to attend ball games for whatever that may be.
How do you police that though?
Excuse
We
me?
can't, you guys would have to police it. We couldn't police it. That's why we have to work with the school district.
So you're saying, in other words, try to put it in board policy?
No, I think in those situations, I mean, one fan could do something so bad that's it. And another fan, you could pull them out of the game and you might talk to them and say, you know what, you do it again and it's, you know, you're going to be banned. So it goes back to the school district knowing their fans and knowing who's in their gymnasium.
But what we'll do is we'll give you a little bit of leverage by saying in a joint decision between the Mesa Vista Schools and the New Mexico Activities Association, this decision has been made. Okay?
Coaching license, Scott went over this. Just one thing you need to know, level 1 coaching license. They told us that we could announce it, but first aid course for level 1, new coaches coming in will have to take the first aid course and the coaching, fundamentals of coaching for level 1 license. So we are stating that. And one thing, athletic directors, please, I just was upstairs with the Spirit. All Spirit coaches must be ACA certified. They just don't need a license. All Spirit coaches, middle school, have to be ACA certified. And if they are not ACA certified, they will not be allowed to be at the state championship. It's a liability, huge issue. And ACA certification is for safety. how to do, you know, all the stunts and everything else. It's a safety thing. Yes,
One of the
Eddie?
things that Scotty asked to ask you when we saw you was, it didn't matter if it was a sport or sideline, correct?
It does not matter. They need to be ACA certified, every single one,
Oh, everyone?
everyone,
Okay.
everyone. If you want them at the state championship, they need to be ACA certified. And it's just gonna be, if something happens, guys, I'm up there and they had, the El Dorado cheerleaders were doing stunts at our rules clinic, and I'm looking at some of these things going, oh my God. You know, it's scary, some of the stuff they're doing. Now, they're doing it safely within the rules, and they should be okay, but if something happens, you guys, just liability-wise, you need to make sure that we are watching what's going on there. Okay, and the ACA certification we are requiring. Any questions?
If you want an electronic copy of this PowerPoint, email me, and I'll get
We'll
that
find
to
it.
you. And I'll
I
get
am
that
so
to you.
sorry, I'm glad we pointed out,
I'll
but
get that to you, and that way you can, or if you want us out at your school to go over this with your coaches, we can do that as well.
thanks a lot, guys, and we'll